For doors and windows, we could model them using traditional polygon techniques, but 3ds Max has procedural doors and windows built in that'll save us some time. Before we build doors and windows, I just want to take a look at some possible smoothing issues that you might encounter as a result of the Boolean operation. If you look closely around your model, you may see some strange black shading like I've got here. And that's just because the Boolean did not really properly smooth all the edges. We want hard edges really everywhere on our model. We can fix that really easily because this is an editable poly object. I'll select it, go to the Modify panel, select all the polygons. There's an easy way to do that, which is to go into Element Subobject mode. An element is a series of connected polygons. Go into Element Subobject, select the object, and now all of its polygons are selected. Scroll down in the Modify panel. You're looking for Polygon Smoothing. Here it is, Polygon Smoothing Groups. And we want to use the Auto Smooth command. And with a value of 45 degrees here, any two adjacent polygons that have an angle of greater than 45 degrees will receive a hard edge or will not be smoothed. Since these are all 90-degree angles everywhere with the value of 45, basically we're going to remove all smoothing everywhere. So with that object's polygon selected, click on Auto Smooth, and boom, we fix the issue. And then we can exit out of Element Subobject mode and now create our door. And to create the door, we'll go into the Create panel, and you want to go to the Geometry section and then the pull-down list, Doors. We've got different types of doors. For a front door here, I want to use a pivot. But before I activate that tool, I want to enable the snaps so I can snap to the grid intersections. Turn on snaps and then get in closer here. Click on the pivot button, and then you need to click and drag in a very specific manner in order to build the door. And there's very little mercy around this. You've got to do it right. Click and hold the mouse button down and drag to determine the width of the door jamb. Then release the mouse and drag to set the depth of the door jamb. Click again and drag upward to set the height. And we can't really snap to the grid in the perspective view when we're dragging up to set that height or elevation. So just click anywhere so that it has some amount of height. Then when you're done, right-click to exit Pivot Door Creation. All right, now let's go into the door parameters. With it still selected, go to the Modify panel, and we can open the door here. We've got an open parameter, so we can tell what direction it's swinging and so on. Let's set the height to 7 feet. Type in a 7, press Enter. And I actually want the door to swing inward, but I want it to swing in the other direction. And I have the ability here to flip the hinge, and now it will open in the direction I want. Of course, I could also flip it so that it was opening outward, but I do want it to open inward. Cool. So you got some parameters in here. The default parameters are actually going to be fine. The only thing that I want to do is just make sure that I've turned off these panels here. By default, you will see that there's a glass panel. I don't really want that in this case, so I'll just disable it. So then we can position that door, and I've still got snaps enabled. And if I right-click on that, I previously turned grid points and vertex snapping on, and that'll come in handy here because I can click and drag on a corner of the door and then just move that and snap it to a grid intersection. Okay, so that's pretty good, but of course I need to move it over and back. I can either eyeball that or I can put it in numerically. We've got the Y position here, and it looks like this needs to be moved over a bit. I can sort of feel my way through that, and then, okay, it looks like I want it to be 9 feet and 6 inches, so I'll just put that in precisely. And then we've got the position in the other axis here. We could do this in the top view, or we could do it here. But basically now I've got it positioned where I want it to be. And then if we want, we could close that door again. All right, pretty cool. Basically, I have what I want for that door. I can make copies of that door and then position them around. We also want to make some windows. They work basically the same. And so I'm not really going to go through window creation, but I just want to point out where you will find them. Go back to the Create menu, back in Geometry, and then in the pull-down list, you've got Windows, and got a bunch of different options. And in my case, I actually made these casement windows so that my windows will swing inward or outward. Once you've created one of them, you want to duplicate that around and make some copies, either straight-up copies or instances. That about wraps up our chapter on polygon modeling. We just scratched the surface of polygon modeling here, but just enough to build up an architectural interior with walls and doors and windows. And in the next chapter, we will look at sub-object polygon editing and go a little bit deeper into the ribbon tools.